So, firstly, I'd like you all to think of an everyday object or thing that's happened within the last few days, something small or non-eventful that doesn't matter, because it's going to come into play later. I'm going to write mine up as I open my speech. Now, as you follow the title, we are all storytellers. And I want to first ask you, what does that mean to you? What does storytelling mean to you? Please, can someone put their hand up and tell me what you think the definition of storytelling is? Anybody?
Life experience.
Anything else? Now, you see, we all tell stories, but we do actually struggle quite often to define why we do it. And my lecturer explained to me earlier in the week that he believes that stories are a map of how our lives are led, using examples of this is what blank is, and then the subject of your story. This is what love is, this is what travel is. And I found that quite a nice start to the lecture. So my entire piece is basically learning from what he said about screenwriting and storytelling, as I'm currently studying screenwriting at university. So, I wanted to go back to why we notice the little things, because this is where I believe all of stories begin, some small little idea. And his example in the class was underpants. Now, this was his example because he was getting changed, getting ready in the morning, getting ready for work, and he thought, oh, what could I do with just staring at these multiple coloured underpants? He had pairs that were in different colours. And he thought, what if every single day I wear green underpants, maybe a car splashes water on me. Every single day I wear blue underpants, the girl I like is always really nice around me. Every single day I wear yellow underpants, I get top marks on my exams. And so he started to build a story around that idea of different coloured underpants, and then thought, what if purple underpants are my bad days? And then the narrative explores the idea of every single time he wears those purple underpants, it's a bad day. And then one day, they're the only pair left in the drawer, and he has to wear the purple underpants, and you explore that day. Now, he thought of this idea purely because he was getting ready for work in the morning. And so he actually challenged us to think of something very small, very nondescript, something that wouldn't even be a story, and to actually apply that same logic. And so my one was rather interesting. I go to a Sunday pub quiz sometimes, and one of my favourite songs ever, Don McLean's American Pie, came on, and I am slightly humble bragging when I can say I can sing all of that word for word, so I instantly had to. And that got me thinking whilst I was halfway through screaming at the top of my lungs in front of strangers, what about using this as my idea? So I actually wrote a story where a character is not comfortable singing, and he's singing in his headphones, and every time he closes his eyes, he's transported from his bedroom where he thought he was singing into a pub surrounded by people who are now singing and dancing with him. But then when he opens his eyes, he's back in his room again. And I only had that idea because of his subject, and when I was singing, I wasn't even thinking about writing the story, and I was thinking, this isn't anything special to me. About 50% of our class don't actually enjoy screenwriting, they just want to work on camera or edit, but everyone in the class managed to think of something. And that's why I want you all to be thinking of that one thing in your mind. Keep that in it, because I'm going to need one of them for later. Another good thing that helped was contrasts and contradictions. So it's quite weird and contradictory to have underpants that are telling your day, or having, every time you close your eyes, you're changing place that you're singing in. So the best place to start is to think about what weird contrast or contradiction you can apply to that normal thing. And then it's looking at the 6 W's, and that includes how. And Neil spoke about them last week in his speech, and they also apply to writing. What are you writing? What medium and how are you going to write it in? Where's it set? What's the plot? Think about all of the 6 W's, because they will help flesh out your story, even if you don't include them in the final piece. Now, the reason I wanted you to all think of one is I want us to all together build a story. So could someone please volunteer their one thing that they were thinking of? Anyone? Yes?
Agenda.
Agenda. So let's start building a story around our agenda. And let's start to go a bit ridiculous with it. What if Mariana, as our Toastmaster, we all know Toastmasters, she comes in with her agendas and everything every day, and what if she stands up to do her Toastmasters for today, and as she's looking at it, the words all disappear on her agenda? and the words disappear on all the agendas in front of you. We've got guests here tonight, and you are trying to make them feel welcomed. What do you do next? And so the story could gradually unfold of how Mariana has to do the entire meeting in a completely new venue without her agenda. And that, on its own, starts to build an interesting picture. Could someone else give me theirs? Yes?
Cycle light.
A cycle light. Now, I'm big on cycling as well, so that's always good for me. I now picture something that I've actually used as a story before. A guy is on a date. He is cycling, racing to get to the date, but he can see that the woman's in there. He's trying to get there in time. He's outside the date location, and he can see her. But he is moments away from being late. He has 1 minute left. And he's trying to rack his bike around a tree, but he's got one of those really nice U-locks that you can't wrap around the tree, so you need something small enough to fit it through. And his only light source is that bike light. And that bike light goes out like this, and now he's plunged into darkness. Will he be able to get his bike locked around that tree before the girl leaves the table? And suddenly you've got your story. And that's actually quite a good example of a race against time. Race against times are great, simple ways to start a story. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this and writing in general is I've actually just come from something really good today. I was up in London. I had my first ever short play put on as part of a larger piece, and it was a lovely day for me. And to me, I almost thought that there was nothing special about it to me, because when we were in our screenwriting class earlier in the week, I heard ideas better than mine, and I thought, I'm here as a writer, but we are all screenwriters. Anyone could have been there, but I was because I applied and I put it in. So even if you don't consider yourself a screenwriter or a story writer, write a story about what you've thought, whether it be a theatre piece or a screenplay, and send it out to the world and see what they have to say. So take that everyday thing and go for it, because we are all screenwriters. Thank you.